I think that there's so many people in that room that have that mindset. Sort of goes to show that it's not going to be possible for me to stay in that room. I'm not quite sure everyone's name, but whoever helped put this together with EOD, thank you both so much. Incredibly generous of you, and I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone else that'll be signing in too. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
it was Diana and some guy named M who kind of suggested it to us.
Oh yeah, where is Ness?
Ness, yeah.
Oh, he's around here somewhere.
is Ness the one who goes by M in our chat, EOD?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a Russia guy. He's a big Russia guy.
Yeah, a little bit. We had a big surprise for you and everything set up, Rob, and you missed it. I had everybody say "fuck Austin Hall" when you.
Shit! Yeah, well, that's all right. We already
Well,
broke our goal today. So yeah,
what's the story with Austin? What's going on?
Yeah, I think he's a dude who's kind of a fan of mine, but like casual. So I started streaming full time, and it's sort of complicated. I don't know how much, if any of you are streamers, but the way it works is if you're getting super chats and shit from YouTube takes a big portion of that. Then you got to pay. I was a 9 to 5 worker my whole life, so I got W-2'd, but then you got to pay the tax man, all of that stuff. So I figured the amount of money I needed to make a day to supplement my old job was $357 every day that I stream. And so I announced this when I started going full time. And this Austin Hall guy just commented on one of my videos, like, $357 a day seems highly unreasonable. And so I took a screenshot of it and just put it up on my channel and was like, look at this bastard, doesn't think we can do it. And we've been pretty good, but every day, the poor guy, I don't think he's ever been back to my channel. Not because he's mad. I just think he only tuned in once. And the poor guy, every day, he's motivating my audience to donate.
Damn, he was the catalyst.
He's like the heel, man. Yeah, he's the Ric Flair of my channel, He's
That's right, brother.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Somebody
Okay,
was
so
saying,
what they
I love to
released,
hate on people. I was like, that's the ideal. You got it. Yep.
so whatever they released, it's only 3% new information. Outside of that, everything was already there.
Damn, 3%. That's a
Yeah.
lot.
It's like
That's not a lot,
grand
bro.
jury testimony.
And-
Is that what it is?
And they said there's no client list in there, like in that 3%. So there's nothing
There's
in,
no
like,
list.
Yeah, I mean, in that 3%, there's nothing in that 3%.
There's not going to be a list. Like, that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
we've already seen
Maybe.
in effect what the list is, and that's going to be the flight logs. That's going to be as close as there is as a list. I highly doubt that they have like a black book from Ghislaine and Epstein that's going to be like a list of names. So it's probably going to just be like the flight logs, and then it's going to be names that people have said. I was at a party and I saw, Jim Smith, and I saw this person. And so it's not going to be a
show you.
list like we would think. And the problem is they're going to, and look, I've been critical as shit with Trump about this. I think the way he handled it was one of the worst unforced errors I've ever seen in politics, and fuck him for it. By the way, can I swear here?
Yeah, that's allowed.
Look at the side chat, look at the
I'll
side
post
chat.
the rules of side chat.
Yeah, no slurs,
Yeah, look at the
anything like
side
that. I'll be no calls of violence slurs. I'll be
Yeah.
within TOS of both YouTube and Twitch, and I assume everyone will. But
Yeah, fuck shit, Dan.
fuck
I mean,
shit.
yeah.
Yes, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as the list, I do understand the argument, right? Where it's like, I feel the same way about P. Diddy. Like, let's say me, I'm starting streaming. Let's say I started 4 years ago and got semi-popular, and all of a sudden, someone, like, I'm on Joe Rogan's show, and the next thing I know, like, Drewski or someone reaches out to me. He's like, hey man, I saw you on Joe Rogan, you're funny. Want to come to this party with me? Like, Will Smith's gonna be there, and like P. Diddy's gonna be there, and I might be like, yeah, I'll bring my wife, sounds cool. We go to Diddy's house. We have burgers. I leave at 8:00. Nothing crazy happened. All of a sudden, the Diddy shit gets released. I might be like, yeah, I would like for my name not to be released. I didn't do shit. I showed up with my wife. I had burgers. I left by 8:00. I didn't even have a beer. There's probably people like that are like, look, I don't want connected with Epstein just because, yeah, I was at a party with him once, or I went to his house once. And I don't know what the legality of that is. Of information that's shared in a grand jury that's not used when it comes to attempting to prove a crime. Normally, we don't release incriminating facts about people unless it's necessary in the scope of trying to prove a crime. So I don't know what'll happen. Now, I don't give a shit. I still want it all released, but I do understand the other side, the argument from the other side.
Yeah, there's going to be a bunch of conflicting information that's released initially, right? And then obviously they're going to have to sift through all of it. So even if we do get like a kernel, you know, like a little serving of it, like you still have to wait to go through all of that information before you even get anything substantial like that.
The thing that I want to see more than a quote client list is what are his connections to government agencies, whether it be US or elsewise, because I'm pretty sure there's some there. And how did
they're not gonna show that.
Well,
they're never gonna show.
Well, that's probably right. You're probably right. They won't. But that shit, I'm not so sure a list even exists, but I'm pretty sure that there are connections to our intel agencies and probably foreign intel agencies. And you're probably right. They'll never show it. But that's the real criminal shit. That's the shit I want to see. But I don't know at this point that there's a list of names with like names circled like Jim Smith. He did this action with this age girl. I doubt that exists. You know, maybe there's tapes, but I mean, consider this. If you're conspiratorial,
I think there are tapes. That's probably what's there.
Well, like Adrenaline, I don't know anything about you, but you sound like you're someone that's leaning with me in that you think there's probably some crazy shit that went on, connections to government, right? Like the U.S. government. Yeah. Do you think if that's true, that like the CIA or the FBI would have kept tapes around for like fucking 13 years, or would they have at this point?
It depends. It depends what kind of department got involved in the, you know, investigating and all that kind of stuff, and who was in charge of keeping the intel where, and you know, it kind of gets in public among the CIA also. So you know, they like among the employees of CIA, they can't keep everything secret, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so, it's a solid argument. It's compartmentalized, so we'll see. There could be shit that's still there. But I think the most incriminating stuff would have been taken care of by the people that have basically.
Yeah, that's what I think. Also, yeah.
You know, but
because look, if I was in power and if I had been doing some kind of like blackmail, crazy videotaping them with some, you know, minors or whatever, I would kill every single one of those who would have the evidence after everything is captured. You know, I would send out, you know,
the Hillary Clinton plan.
You know, yeah, that's a little wild. Anyways, something TOS, something.
Yeah, it's. I'll just say that just to put a nice bow on it. I don't know. Maybe we'll end up talking about this tonight, but to put a nice bow on it.
Yeah, basically, those people that would eliminate those people who were in charge or who kept secrets or whatever. You know, like if let's say I'm the guy who's in the Department of Storage in CIA and I know something, and they fear that I might tell someone else, they would probably execute me.
Yeah,
right?
I you know, it's probably compartmentalized, and they probably could trust most of the people in there to not divulge stuff. But I understand what you're saying. In theory, any government agency that's involved in heavy corruption may want to take the most extreme measures to make sure that doesn't get out. And so I don't disagree. You know, I will say this, though. None of this is to defend Trump. Like the fact that he basically, at least at one point, said he would release files on the campaign trail and then literally turned on his core base by saying that he didn't want them as supporters anymore if they still cared about this issue is one of the all-time dumbest, most insulting things that I've ever seen someone do as an unforced error in politics. It's absolutely outrageous. And there's no defense for it.
I see that view. I see that, but I also see the other side that I think might be true, which could be that Trump is trying to put spotlight on Epstein files, because obviously if he would say that, imagine, bro, if I would say, why are you guys still caring about Epstein files? Who cares about Epstein's files? It's 2025. Forget about it. He's a creep, this and that. If I say this, everybody would be curious. I'd be furious. They'd be like, whoa, what are you talking about? So, you know, that's what I also think, that maybe he's just trying to put spotlight. Maybe he is, you know, maybe he does want to release it. Maybe he doesn't.
I don't know.
Most likely, I don't think he does want to release it.
Anything's possible, but I don't subscribe to the 4D chess model. I don't subscribe.
Yeah, me neither.
I think that it's quite simple. I think that he heard that there were stories coming out about him in the Wall Street Journal that he thinks were fake, and so he said, "It's all fake news. Forget it. Move on." I think it was that simple.
I have an inquiry on government officials. the public servants we are supposed to be electing and looking up to, when do these public servants become tyrants based on their actions, and what do they have to cross if they have some level of qualified immunity and power, right?
What do they have to cross, like a legal framework? Is that what you mean? Or like
have you introspected on like that entire concept of like when does that threshold get crossed of tyrannical government actions?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think that we already see tyrannical government actions. I think that the lockdowns during the pandemic were tyrannical government actions. I think that a lot of the stuff we see with the Patriot Act would qualify to me as tyrannical government actions. So the question is, what do you do about it? I do not subscribe to using political violence. I think that it is immoral. It is true that there have been times in history when political violence has been justified, but for every time that you could point to that, you could literally point to 100,000 times where people have said it was justified and it wasn't. And in today's day and age, I think that not only would it be immoral, but it's also non-strategic. There are better ways to fight these battles, particularly through information. Right now, at least in this country, we still have access to being able to discuss this sort of stuff. Even like tonight, we're probably going to robustly disagree. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. I'm some redneck from Pennsylvania, and theoretically, I'll be talking to hundreds of people on my channel, and how many of you are streaming or how many people directly participate here. It's really amazing. So for me, what we do is the way we win is shining light on the corruption. And that's true if you're hating Trump. If you think Trump's corrupt, that's the way you win. You convince the plurality of people that it's corrupt, and then you try to work within the system, and hopefully you get legal consequences. But we're probably far afoul from that. It's so corrupt, and it's been so entrenched for so long that I don't know that it could be fixed in like one term. I think that it's something that's going to take a long time of people understanding just how distrusting they should be of these institutions before we see real accountability.
I'd say about 100 years.
Yeah, maybe if we're lucky.
I mean, we saw the Battle of Athens, when black men who had came back from World War II had to fight their way to vote. So I would say that wasn't even political violence; that was a tyrannical government. And I think those bodies that were doing that were completely in the right. And if you look at the Enforcement Act, wouldn't it constitute the president to suspend the Magna Carta in pursuit of getting rid of these political activists that are causing violence? So I see those kind of frameworks already laid down for the government to throw their hands up and say, doesn't matter, they were in the wrong. And
they look, all I'll say is this, right? You got to be very careful for both terms of service reasons and morally and strategically for suggesting that it's time to use violence against a tyrannical government, even if it's directly to like they're physically trying to stop you from going to vote. Because I assure you that it's a one-way ticket to not being able to have a voice. It's particularly true if you're on the right. The left gets away with more of this shit, at least historically they have in the past 20 years, right? They can have riots and have them be declared mostly peaceful and be given a slap on the wrist. I warned people all through 2020 when we saw the Summer of Love. I said, inevitably, when the right riots, you people are going to lose your shit. And the government's going to crack down like you've never seen before. And they're going to say that it's the biggest, most seminal moment in the history of our country. January 6th happens.
Right. And on top of that, AI is going faster than ever, and they're going to have bots on the streets as cops. And, a human cop can have sympathy when people riot, and they can be like, oh, these are American citizens. But bots, they're not going to think. They're just going to do whatever the government tells them to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I'm just saying,
and that's not far.
It's morally, it's not acceptable, and particularly if you're on the right. But even if you're on the left, strategically, it's not acceptable because what happens?
It's not a tenable position, long term, right? Because you're right. They're doing exactly what they want you to do, correct, which is to give them carte blanche to then roll out whatever legislation that they had prepared ahead of time.
And as much as I think January 6th was a riot that got out of control, there is something to be said that afterwards, there was a swell of particular conservatives in this country that legitimately thought the election was stolen, that were quoting shit like, well, the tree of liberty needs to be refreshed with the blood of tyrants. They were coming on my channel, and I was like, get that shit out of here. Fuck you. Don't Fed post on my channel, right? And I told people, I said, you talk a big game. Do you have a family? Do you love them? Because your ass is going to go to prison. That's what's going to happen. And then what kind of change are you going to make from within prison? And I said, they're going to use this moment to crack down on this entire movement. And you know what? It's going to work, because what you're going to see is a bunch of people that were tired of the left and their violence are going to look and they're going to say, you know what? But the right's the same. See, same shit. And that's exactly what happened. Now, was it strategic? Did it benefit the right for this riot to get out of control on January 6th? Absolutely not. But let's say that you legitimately feel that the election was stolen. You have the right to feel that way. Did it affect change? No, to the opposite. If anything, it set the movement back that would have got this country in a direction you like for 4 years. Trump had to leave with his tail between his legs, pardon a bunch of people, if you remember going out in 2020, that basically a bunch of the establishment Democrats and Republicans wanted pardon. And he was basically told by Mitch McConnell company, now shut your damn mouth and get out of here, or we're going to aggressively pursue criminal charges against you, which ended up happening anyways. But that Trump left with his tail between his legs because things got out of hand on January 6th. Now, was it true that maybe feds and whatever set it up to make it more likely for something to happen? Possibly. But that shows you why political violence, particularly on the right, is not going to be the answer strategically. And even on the left, I think that you're making a mistake. Like, look, all of these anti-ICE protests, to the extent that there is sympathy for people in this country to not deport Abuela or, you know, the illegal that's been here for 25 years working in a meatpacking factory, when people see the Mexican flag flying as police cars are being burned and police are being attacked and all this shit, people don't have a gut for that after 2020. They're like, fuck this. We're over this shit. We're over the left's riots. We're over the media like, well, mostly peaceful, or this is good. We're over it. And so
Fiery, but mostly peaceful process. Yeah, I love CNN, right?
Yeah. So what you saw was there was those riots that you saw, the ICE riots. By the way, they're still happening in Portland. Just last night, they attacked the ICE Center again in Portland that they've been attacking since 2020. Every time that shit's shown on TV, which the media tries their best to not show it, there bumps up another 2 percentage points. Like, you know what? Kick all these illegals out. Kick them out. That's what happens. And so violence is not the answer in today's day and age. Could it get there hypothetically someday? Maybe, but I don't think we're anywhere near that point. And I think that we as people that are talking in a public light should attempt to be responsible and not say things that could encourage people to think that violence could potentially be an answer. That's the case if you're arguing for political issues, if you're arguing for trans issues, if you're arguing for LGBT issues, if you're arguing for religious issues, economic issues, it doesn't matter. Oftentimes what happens is people hear, we have every right to talk about, we think that our opponents are evil or they're disgusting or they're ruining the country. But I think that you should be very careful to pay any sort of allusions to violence being a potential answer, because I think that a lot of impressionable people watch and someone could take that the wrong way. And unfortunately, we see the results of where that could lead. So anyways, we can argue about some Trump stuff. I don't know who's running the show here, but
yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
Welcome everyone. I'm glad that people came in. So I kind of, the topic is, you can explain whatever topic you have on your mind, because you know, you're the one coming here to fight. But anybody can really jump in with a topic they want to fight him on. From my understanding, you lean more right.
Nobody want to fight him, to be honest.
Well, if you don't mind,
sorry, it's just words.
Yes. Fight is in, not fight is in, the Colorado court tried to keep Trump off the ballot for saying fight, but fight is in, we're talking about arguing vehemently in a political way. That's what we mean by fight.
Yeah.
So
I love the nonviolent aspect of it too, and that's really ultimately what I'm really happy that you're bringing to the table, because I didn't know anything about you, and ultimately I agree with you. And I'm just going to mute myself real quick after I just make this one simple statement. The right needs to have its Gandhi moment. It needs to essentially practice the whole nonviolence aspect of it, because that is how you're going to win people over. If you regurgitate the same violence that the left has been acting on the right, like you said, they're just going to look at them as a scapegoat and then say, okay, well, both the left and the right are the same. And so I'm glad to hear that 100%.
So if you like, I'll just explain a little bit, like in 2 minutes, who I am, my political ideology, and then I'll give the topic that I had. But I just want to let everyone know I am open to any topic that you guys want that you think I'll disagree. If it's something that I'm ignorant of, or if it's something that I agree with you of, that maybe wouldn't that be fun, then I'll let you know. But I'm open to anyone challenging in any way any of the positions I have.
What do you think about Nick Fitness?
What's that?
What do you think about Nick Fitness?
No, wait.
No.
Let me give me a chance to explain, sort of giving an opening statement here, if you don't mind. So Rob Noor, I'm 41. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. I've lived here my whole life. Everyone I know is a redneck, sort of a blue collar worker, and they are the people that I have an affinity for more than anyone in life. I happen to be a very bad redneck, so everything that they're good at, I'm bad at. So I'm a bad mechanic, bad carpenter, etc. But these are the people that are my friends and loved ones that I grew up with. I happen to be a pretty reasonable talker. Went to a small state school called Clarion University, joined the debate team there, and had pretty good success in collegiate debate. You may have seen clips of the style debate I did. It's called policy debate. It's when people talk as fast as humanly possible, like auctioneers, and be able to talk about all these impacts, everything leading to nuclear war. That's the style debate I did. And so I did that for 4 years. Then I coached debate for another 4.5 years. And then I did home health care is what I did for basically the past 14 years, where I took care of adults with disabilities like autism. I recently started about 3 months ago. I got hired by these debate
Good
network.
on you.
Thank you. I got hired by this debate network called The Crucible to do sort of behind the scenes stuff for it. And I started streaming full time. My political persuasion, the way I got into politics was basically 9/11 happened my senior year in high school. I really didn't care about politics. I had a couple of friends that went over to the war. Within a year or two in college, I sort of became this libertarian adjacent type person, but all my friends were left wingers. So my first political moment was really being against the Iraq war. And I really despised George W. Bush. And I think that I've had a healthy distrust of government ever since. And ironically, even though a lot of my left wing friends from that era say I've changed, I haven't. I continue to be distrusting of U.S. interventionism, of our CIA, of these government institutions, the FBI, etc. I would consider myself the following 3 political positions. I am first and foremost a populist. I'm not interested in sort of semantic debates on what that means. I'll just explain what it means to me. And if you want to call it something else, no problem, fine by me. By populist, what I mean is I believe that the governments of the West, in particularly the United States, are ran by people that are only interested in entrenching their own power for the powerful. And they don't really care about us, the average person, whether we be right wingers, left wingers, or anything in between. They don't actively hate us. They just see us as sort of irrelevant cattle. Sometimes we could benefit them. Sometimes we're a nuisance to them. The government is not ran so that our opinion matters. They give us sort of an illusion of choice, and we must rein in that corruption in order for us to have a voice on anything. The second thing that I am is libertarian adjacent. I prioritize things like personal liberty and freedom. However, I'm becoming less and less in that and more into the third camp, which is sort of a fiscal conservatism. And I am Christian, and so some of my Christian values seep into that. So I have these 2 wolves of like the sort of Christian person and the libertarian person that's constantly fighting back and forth. But the populism thing comes first. I believe that Donald Trump represented a potential outsider, even if you don't think that he actually was one. And what he did was expose the system for how corrupt they are, that they refuse to have someone that they think is outside the scope of them come into power. They engaged in lawfare and dirty tricks from him from the outset of him running in 2016, and they've kept that up for the past 8 years, now 9 years going into it. I think the lawfare was blatant, and that's why the topic I've chosen tonight, but again, you can talk about anything you want, is that all talk about norms being violated, in particular when it comes to potential investigations into people that are opponents of Donald Trump. I do not care whatsoever anyone who makes those criticisms that cheered on the lawfare against Trump, his allies, his supporters, etc. If you cannot prove to me that you were against that lawfare when it was occurring to Donald Trump, your opinion means nothing to me. If you say, but now's the time to stop, this is political lawfare. We were told that the bar for starting an investigation was very low when it came to investigating Trump or anyone connected to him, and that no one was above the law. My standard was that that was a very bad mindset to have. And if that occurred, we would break a glass ceiling that would mean that every administration in power would then weaponize systems to go after their opponents. I lost that debate. The left won that debate. The Democrats won that debate. And now I'm happy to see them live under the consequences that they sought their opponents to live under. So that's the position that I come in with tonight, but I'm happy to debate anything that you guys would like.
Okay, so that feel like that's a great way to start this off. Anybody can grab the mic, but I do ask that we are respectful and try to share. Yeah, no over talking. Please make sure we check out the rules. All right. Go again.
Yeah, so any topic, if people want a different topic other than that, that's fine too. I do generally support Trump, though I criticize him heavily, as people that were here early heard on issues that I think. But yeah, whatever, any questions, arguments that anyone has, good for me.
I can start it off. I just want to ask. So, obviously, his health is declining. It looks like he may have some heart issues due to the poor circulation. What are your thoughts on JD Vance as a leader, potential leader, if Trump does die?
The downside to Vance is the Palantir stuff and like the connection to Peter Thiel. And there is serious concerns I have with Peter Thiel and with sort of companies that are interested in using technology to sort of hoover up all of our data. You could have concerns like this with Elon Musk as well. But outside the scope of that, and I'm not 100% convinced that Vance would be terrible in that regard. It's definitely something to look at that is concerning. Outside of that, I think JD Vance has the potential to be the most effective political leader in my lifetime. I think he is incredibly
JD Vance.
I think
JD Vance is super APAC supporter. He's a super Israel supporter.
Okay, well, give me a chance to finish my thought, and then I'll be happy to address
Okay.
that. I think JD Vance comes from a similar lifestyle to me. The people that I'm most concerned with are people in rural America. I think he understands the problem with manufacturing being outsourced and with the U.S. sort of exporting dollars as their primary export as opposed to something of value like manufacturing. He understands that that's not sustainable. I think he understands the populist movement, and I think that he will have many of the impulses of Donald Trump that so many of the MAGA people liked, but it will come in a more polished package. I think he is one of the most tremendous debaters that we've seen on the stage, and he knows how to handle both the media and opposing politicians masterfully. So if he is someone that would actually advocate for a populist message, I think that he would be. I think the Democrats that are hoping for the death of Donald Trump will regret that, because I think that JD Vance would be able to take the positions that they don't like from Trump and put it in a more friendly package and be able to articulate it better without some of the faux pas that Trump has, and would probably move the needle even further. APAC, is that what you wanted me to talk about? Adrenaline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your evidence that JD Vance is super APAC?
Because he supports funding of Israel. He has spoken many times on Twitter, on as a spokesman. He said that many times.
So I'm unaware of every time. I know that he has at least once that I'm aware of talked about wanting to continue funding Israel. My question is, was that post being vice president or pre being vice president?
No, before he was vice president, he used to say the opposite. When he became vice president, he changed his tone just like every other politician.
Okay, so that's what I thought, right? Listen, I'm not making excuses for JD Vance on this regard, right? My position on Israel-Palestine is this. I think that Israel's probably going too far with the attacks in Palestine. However, if I was Israeli and October 7th happened and it was my family that had been taken hostage, then I'd say, fuck all that. I'm going to go far as well. As an outside objective observer, you could say, but wait a minute, should you rein this in? Ultimately, though, I think that Israel sucks. I think that Palestine sucks. I'm tired of our government being the world police and getting involved in situations around the world where we make the situation worse and it ends up not benefiting the people of the United States and takes away distraction from the people of the United States and ends up outsourcing sort of the good nature and wealth of the average worker in the United States to benefit people around the world. I feel the same way about the Russia-Ukraine situation. So I think that the United States, their role in these international conflicts should be stop funding either side and try to be there to broker a peace deal. That's it. That's my concern. To the extent that AIPAC is bad, yes, I think AIPAC has too much influence in the United States. I don't think that it's one of these things where there's Jewish people hiding behind under every bed, that every ill that's ever occurred in the United States is because of AIPAC or because of Israel or Zionists or because of Jewish people. I think that there is a lot of influence, and there's a lot of things you could see that Israel's helped lead the United States into bad neocon foreign policy. Absolutely. But I'll say this, I wonder how much Vance had to capitulate to the stances of Donald Trump when he became vice president. Part of the job is you don't get to go out there and advocate for your policy if it's diametrically opposed to the person that you're serving under. And so I wonder if JD Vance was president, if he would adapt more of the non-interventionist policy that he seemed to have before he became vice president. And maybe some of his rhetoric now about the need to support Israel is because that's the direction that Donald Trump wants him to go. Nonetheless, I would still say, as bad as it would be if we have JD Vance become president and be interventionist, he's still going to be less interventionist than what the Democrat option would be, unless they decide to go in a radically different direction. And so even though that's something that I would agree, I want a non-interventionist president, I would still prefer JD Vance and still think, because I mean, name me the president or the candidate in the past 20 years that you think wasn't beholden to like international lobbies or getting involved in being the world police. I don't think there is one. Ron Paul, and who was my boy, but they screwed him over. He never really had a chance. So I still think JD Vance, if we're comparing him to the other options that we've seen be candidates or president, would still be probably the best of the best in that front.
Nice. Anyone else want to answer that? Also love the Ron Paul. That's true. Even Jon Stewart on the Daily Show back in the day was like, who? Ron Paul? Because the media just kept on like not showing him, right?
It's crazy. If you look, it's like, obviously I'm no tech wizard, right? And take this with a grain of salt. I'm not trying to be overly conspiratorial, but if you look at things like Google, I don't know what they called it back in the day, but basically like Google Trends, where you could search words, like Ron Paul was through the roof in 2008. Like the interest that he was getting, very much like Bernie Sanders 2016. He was selling out speeches.
Gold standard, flat Austrian tax, right?
Yeah.
Just one flat tax.
And he's getting no attention whatsoever from like the media. Like they're just like blackballing him. And there was a bunch of shady stuff when it came to some of those initial primaries in these initial states, which I'm not going to get into. But yeah, it was clear that they were still able to control the narrative back in 2008 and 2012 because of the advent of social media becoming more and more influential and the waning importance of sort of the legacy media. I think that's one of the reasons that you saw someone like Donald Trump and even Bernie Sanders start to get more success in 2016. Because you no longer are beholden. Like, think of it circa 2002. Like, if Fox News or the New York Times or CNN aren't covering a candidate, they probably ain't going to win unless they're just insanely wealthy and they could just buy ads all on their own. And so I think that is one positive of social media. And I think that, that's something that we could say, even if you're a progressive lefty, right? Like that's something that I think that you could hang your hat a little on, that these sort of establishmentarian sort of corporate lefties that's represented by your Pelosi's, Chuck Schumer, and Hillary Clinton, it's getting hard for them to sort of put the genie in the bottle where they've promised all this stuff to these more progressive left wingers. It used to be able that they were able to control the flow of information better, but now those people, just like in 2016, you saw so many right wingers from the Tea Party movement, etc., that were fed up with the old Bush style politics, the McCain, the Romney, the Bush, and so
old neocon dynasties, yeah.
So they went in a radical direction. We'll see if that's what the Democrats do. You'll see the civil war now amongst the Democrats. It's going to be Hassan versus Destiny, baby.
Hassan Tucker.
Drag out fight. Let's see what happens.
So I believe Reagan, did you want to go next to ask?
Yeah, I think I thought of a good question. It's a little bit out there, though. Do you answer like kind of tangentially related questions that are tangentially related to politics?
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, Rob Noor, do you take it to be true that you're worthy of moral consideration and thus not a subhuman?
Yes.
Can you prove that?
No.
You can't prove. So we're going to be agnostic on your moral consideration.
We're going to be eating you.
Let me put it this way, right? I could prove it through myself and through the lens of people that tend to agree with me in a moral framework. But let's, for example, say that your religion is that you have faith that says that all humans, other than your specific gender, race, sexual orientation, country of origin, etc., is subhuman. How would I ever prove that against you if you believe that as a matter of faith?
Oh, I have no idea. So are you going to be agnostic on whether it's good or bad to eat you?
No, it's bad to eat me.
Why is it bad to eat you?
Because we should ultimately, there are things that we call rights. What rights are very ambiguous. When I say rights, it's things that as a government and as a people, even outside the legal scope, we should say that there are things that each human being should have that we don't infringe on as other human beings. One of those would be something like the right to life. So unless there is aggression from you onto me, I should not be allowed to take away through my direct actions your right to life. Eating me would be murder, and so therefore you should not have the right to murder me. And if you try to aggress on me, then I would be justified not just in a moral framework, but I also will definitely status quo in a legal framework, but I think it ought to be also that as a government we advocate in a legal framework that I have the right to end your life if you're trying to end mine.
So, okay. Do you maintain those axiomatically, or are you like deriving them from somewhere, or?
Well, I derive my sense of morality through sort of a Christian sense of ethics. But even beyond that, I could say through...
So you believe in God?
I do. But I could even say...
Can you give an argument for theism?
So I could say outside the scope of that, I could say that even without arguing theism, which I can, but even without arguing it, I could say that I could argue it in a secularist framework as well, right? And you could go through something like the non-aggression principle, or even distill it into a weaker format of the golden rule. We should not do unto others what we would not like done unto us. And so therefore we should not aggress against other human beings, because those are actions that we would not want taken against us. And that's how we have sort of a civil society. Ultimately, that allows our society to progress in a utilitarian framework even better. This gets outside the scope of just morality and deontology. So if we want to have the best possible society for the most number of people, then we should embrace these principles that say we should not allow people to go ahead and murder people just because it's on a whim. But I could argue.
Well, so far you've maintained that you believe that this is true axiomatically, out of your personal interest, and because God said so.
Correct.
So which of those three do you take to be true as why you shouldn't eat you?
All three.
You take all three to be true.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Which would make
So
sense.
can you give an
because
argument
if they came
for
from
God?
It would make sense that it would be axiomatic. It would also make sense that it would make sense in a utilitarian personal framework.
They can be derived from God and not God could be real, and I could have axioms that aren't in line with morality, right?
You could, but it would make sense that if God is real and he is just, that axiomatically these sort of things would apply. Things that would also be beneficial to myself and almost everyone else. But let's turn the question to you. So if you're going
I'm just asking questions.
No, I understand you're asking questions. I think I have the right. I've been kind in answering your questions, so I think I'll turn it to you, right?
Well, I have more questions.
That's fine. You have a chance to ask more
That's
questions.
just pivot.
Quid pro quo, right? So if your argument is that axiomatically you don't think that I should have the right to not be eaten, is there any right that people have, or do you think it's just complete force? Whoever has force is allowed to do whatever they want to anyone they want.
I'm agnostic on that.
Define agnostic on it. What do you mean by that?
I'm unsure.
Okay, if you're unsure, then why can't I just do it to you? You can't say it's wrong, correct?
I'm agnostic on it. I'm not sure if it's wrong.
Right. So if you're agnostic, that means you can't say it's wrong.
Well, I'm unsure if it is or isn't. It could be. I'm agnostic.
But then you don't get to make, so when someone breaks into your house, you don't get to make any oh, well, this is ethically wrong. This shouldn't legally be the case because you're agnostic, correct?
Yes, I'm agnostic on that. Okay. Well, it could be wrong. I'm agnostic.
Do you think that the law, do you think if you don't believe something axiomatically or morally, that you should advocate for the law enforcing it?
I'm axiomatic on. I'm agnostic on that. Sorry, my bad.
You're agnostic, but my argument is, if you're agnostic, do you think then it would be incorrect for you to advocate for the law to enforce something that you're agnostic on?
I'm agnostic if it would be correct for me to advocate that or not.
I'm not nihilist. I have no interest in talking to you.
No, I'm agnostic.
All right, so moving on to the next.
Or can I ask another question?
Split, I believe you're next in the queue.
You ask a question.
Who wants to get dunked on?
So Split is next in the queue. Split, if you would like to proceed.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask what you thought about the gerrymandering that's going on, the tit for tat war between Texas and California, and then the second part would be the trolling that Gavin Newsom and his team are doing, and how it is
war?
The gerrymandering war that we're having between Texas and California.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So
so and then the trolling part,
sure, the
Gavin Newsom's team.
Yeah, no problem. So the gerrymandering, first, let me say this. I don't think either side has a moral high ground here. I think the truth is politics is dirty and both sides have gerrymandered. And it actually made sense from my perspective of thinking that there was in effect a uniparty for them to do this, because what it means is that they're able to staunchly entrench themselves and staunchly entrench the status quo. In fact, it would have meant less about Republican or Democrat winning and more about in each individual state not having to appeal to the other side, because you have a district that's going to be 70% Democrat and a district that's going to be 70% Republican. And so that means you could just run on business as usual. You don't have to worry about the other side winning. Both Republicans and Democrats win, insofar as that they don't have to worry about like significant races that they have spent time and energy on. So I don't think that either side has a moral high ground. I think it's something that both sides were willing to allow to occur because they both saw mutual benefit in it, not just from the game of you do it in this state, we do it in this state, but from the game of even within those individual states, we're guaranteed districts that we know will have seats, and so we don't have to worry about competitive general elections, etc. As far as sort of the game of cheating, I biasly think that the game of cheating in general is done worse by the Democrats. I think that's done through things like mail-in voting and things that we're going to find out were very unethical and led to all sorts of crazy stuff that's occurring. I could talk to some polling that seems to suggest that, but also other more blatant things that you see, such as ballot harvesting and even things like dark money, etc., that have been used quite proficiently in many ways. And if you go beyond that, you can see things like as simple as the miscount of the census, which it seems is all but acknowledged, took 2 seats from Republican states and gave them to Democrat states. In addition, when it comes to the specific gerrymandering, the Democrats' moral grandstanding on this is a joke. Not only have they done it in the past, but their specific criticism of Trump was one, to flee Texas, or of the Republicans was to flee Texas and go to Illinois, which objectively is one of the most blatant and corrupt gerrymandered states under J.B. Pritzker. They say, well, that's okay because we corruptly gerrymandered that during a census year. What does that have to do with anything? Oh, so it's okay to disenfranchise people and gerrymandering as long as it's a census year? That somehow makes it okay? But even if you accept that, then you look at states like New York, which redistricted in like 2023 or 24. I forget when the maps were finally sealed, which again was an off year. And so the fact that Republicans are doing what Democrats have done and Democrats are doing what Republicans have done, and now all of a sudden we're making it this moral grandstanding issue, and California saying we're doing it because Texas is doing it, just say the truth, right? You're doing it because power, and Texas is doing it because of power, and other states are going to do it because of power, and that's the way it is. I think what's more devastating for Democrats in this perspective is, one, if the Supreme Court overrules this case, and I have to admit, I don't know a lot about it, which says that you're not allowed to factor in race when it comes to districting. If that occurs, it looks like estimates show that Democrats might lose an additional 5 seats. And I think that that should occur. I don't think that we should be allowed to district based on race. And then the other question that's even worse is, and I think this should happen as well, is illegals should not count in the census and therefore should not count to the total amount of electoral votes you get. And if that occurs, then you're talking about Democrats losing another 20 seats. So it is a power equation. The Democrats sort of took the gloves off in the most blatant way possible with the lawfare against Donald Trump. So this is the world they wanted. They wanted a world where norms were shattered because Orange Man bad. This is what you get. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I would like to see a mutual de-escalation on all fronts, but it's clear that the Democrats are going to go to the mat at this point. They tried to throw Trump in prison for the rest of his life, and they're going to keep doing it over and over and over again. So I guess it's time for the other side to play as well. As far as Gavin Newsom and the trolling, it comes across as ineffectual, and the reason is because it's not who Gavin Newsom is. What you want as a politician, as a streamer, or anything is authenticity. You could be any type of character as long as you're being yourself. You could dupe people in the short term, and you could dupe small groups of people, but inevitably, people will see through if you're being a phony. Take someone like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has a solid case for why she should have been president. She was involved in politics almost the entirety of her adult life. She had been everything from a senator to a secretary of state to, first lady. All of these things, and she's someone that's not me, but that's okay. She can make a solid case why you want an expert, why you want someone who's been involved in politics that long to be there. Instead, if you remember in 2016, she's running talking about, I shop at Walmart just like you. When she gets in front of the Black podcast, I carry hot sauce in my purse, and it just comes across as phony. The same was true of Al Gore. I don't know how many of you remember, but Al Gore's concession speech, it's universally accepted that if he would have given that speech on the stump while he was running, he probably would have won. He came across as very authentic. He didn't come across as this stilted person that's reading off a script. So authenticity is very important. I'm not offended by Gavin Newsom and what he's saying or any of that. That's stupid. Leave him say what he wants. And if you're a Trump supporter and you're offended by jokes or rhetoric from the left, you might want to look in the mirror because Trump's probably been more offensive than all of the other politicians combined, which is fine by me. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to wield away because some words. But the reason that it rings hollow is because this isn't who Newsom is. We've all seen who Newsom is. And the reason that Trump, quote, gets away with it and he's held to a different standard is that's who the dude is. Like him or hate him, he's that dude. He's the dude that's running for president, running for office for the first time ever in 2016. He's on the biggest stage of his life, debating Hillary Clinton on the precipice of an election where he would end up winning. And he's making jokes about Rosie O'Donnell being ugly. That's who the man is. And so it's authentic and it's baked in.
Hell yeah.
That's who Trump
Are you
is.
done with your script yet? Or are you going to keep going?
No, I'll talk as much as I want. Who's that?
Here,
Would you like to get round?
so I believe that Split was.
monologue.
Split, did you have any additional questions for?
Not No, that's
Or,
it.
Bring in the
okay.
big mouth. Bring him
Okay.
in.
Awesome. All right, so moving on to the next in the queue, I believe after that is Sensei. Sensei, if you would like to stick up. No.
Yeah, what's up, Rob?
Hey, how's it going?
If you don't mind me asking, I'm a little new here. Who are you exactly? Are you like a YouTuber?
Yes. Yeah. I stream. I ran for Congress in Pennsylvania. I stream on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, X, and Rumble.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But I mean, anyways, yeah. So would you affirm the proposition that all trans women are women?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so I'll just give the argument for why that's true. Yeah, so it would just be premise one. If trans women meet one of the disjunctive components of the definition of woman, then it's just trivially true that all trans women are women. And then it just follows from modus ponens. And then, do you want my definition of woman now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I just take a woman to be a mature individual whose internal sense of self is female, or an individual who loosely resembles a mature female if and only if they lack an internal sense of their gender.
So basically, your definition is anyone who says they're a woman is a woman.
No, it's not what I said. I
Well,
think
it
you
is
just might be
because-
confused on
No,
what
no.
gender identity is.
It is because you said or, right? You said or. So one, it could be
What?
people that present as female. That was basically one of it, right?
I mean, not really.
Okay, you gave
It's not really about
you said you
presenting
gave
stuff
an or. The
Well,
one
clarify.
had to do with internally concepting yourself as a female, correct?
I said, yeah, just internally seeing yourself as one.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm interpreting that as if you say you're a woman, you're a woman. Can you explain? Can you
No,
explain?
that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, can you explain what you mean by that first point then? And you'll acknowledge because you said or. All you have to do is meet this criteria that you're about to explain, and this would mean you're a woman, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so explain what you mean by that, internally concepting yourself as a woman, a female.
Yeah. So, I mean, some gender identity, it's really just going to be some internal sense of what your gender is. Now, it's kind of undefined or it's not well defined in the literature. So, if anything, maybe we could just give an example. So, if I have two buttons and then one of the buttons makes you generally masculine and the other one makes you generally feminine, you would say you'd prefer to click the first button, right?
I
Like
don't.
you
You don't
personally,
mean
yeah.
button like on a shirt. You mean button like clicking on a computer.
Yeah,
Is what you mean?
yeah,
Okay,
yes,
I was
like
little
a
confused.
clicking button. Yep,
So
yep.
if I had to click a button to describe what I would like to be, I would click masculine because I'm a male.
You would do that.
That's what.
Okay.
I suppose, though, I will admit that I have traits that would be considered feminine as well. Nothing this has to do with if I'm
Yeah,
a
that's
man or
fine.
woman, though.
No, yeah, that's fine. So I think a gender identity is kind of like that. You have these preferences of just maybe being externally and internally perceived as having masculine or feminine traits. This is just of your preferences. And you can just intuitively understand you're a man. And then I just take it to be analytically true, at least. A trans woman's just going to be a male whose gender identity, aka internal senses of female, in the first definition, or that would just meet the first disjunctive
I
component.
don't understand how what you just described meets your original definition of like the internal conception that you find yourself to be female.
Yeah, so-
Let me explain why. I don't think the terms masculine or feminine is going to help with this. For example, let's say that there is a biological female. I don't have to explain that, right? Like we can accept those terms, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So biological female that is completely butch, fucking ripped, goes to the gym every day, buzz cut, right? Tattoos, wears flannels, cut off flannels, like completely presenting masculine. Like everything about the internal conception is she's like, I'm totally masculine. And yet she says, I'm a woman. Is she a man or a woman?
If it's true her gender identity is a female, then yeah, it's just trivially true she's a woman, yeah.
But what if she internally conceptualizes being masculine?
Yeah, then I just take it that she's a man.
Even though she says she's a woman.
What if her internal sense of self is of male? That would just
she
mean
says,
that she
I'm
actually
a masculine
interprets
woman.
that.
Her internal conception is I have all masculine traits, but I call myself a woman. Is she a man or a woman?
Well, to be clear, it just depends. If by woman she just means an adult human female, then her interpretation is true. But that doesn't exactly defeat under my semantics she would be a woman still.
Okay.
I mean, sorry.
Man, So one, we would have to decide why your preferred definition would be better than the adult female version. But let's even accept that your version would be better. Who are you to tell someone that's telling you, I am a woman? No, you're wrong. You're not. Who are you to say that?
So I take it that we can have preferred semantical accounts of words, and then you already granted that it would be more preferable to understand woman in this way.
No, I didn't.
So I think that's
I didn't
enough.
grant that at all. I'm granting for
You
the
just
sake of
said you
argument.
just said
I'm
if we
granting for
grant that your
I'm
definition is
granting
better.
for the sake of argument, but nonetheless, you haven't answered my question. Why
So
why
if-
would it be wrong if this woman, and truly, you could hook up to a machine and you could see a lie detector machine that's 100% accurate, and you can see she really does think she's a woman, and yet she really thinks that every trait she has is masculine. Who would you be to tell her that her internal conception of being a female is wrong?
Yeah, just so first of all, if what she means by woman is just being an adult human female, all trans women would interpret that they're not women. That's like extremely obvious. And then two, since we're granting that my definition's superior, that would
We're
already
not
be
granting it.
evidence-
We're granting it for the sake of argument.
So you're granting. All right, cool. So since
not
we're
granting
granting the argument
We're not granting it.
for
We're granting
the
it for the sake of
argument.
Yeah.
Yep. For the sake of argument, I think that's evidence to believe that she's a woman in virtue of meeting the given criteria that's established.
So again, read your definition again. Your definition of women before you get to the or. Read it again.
Yep, it's just a woman is a mature individual whose internal sense of self is female.
Okay, so why her internal sense of self would be female, even though her internal sense of self is she has masculine traits? Who are you to tell her she's wrong? Her internal sense of self is female.
I've already answered this.
No, you aren't. Is she okay? Then maybe I misunderstood. If she believes she is masculine, every characteristic she's like masculine, 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 but her internal sense of self is female. Is she man or woman?
Yep, she's a woman, and that's just analytically true. And to be clear, this would only maybe be a gotcha if I think being a woman and being a man isn't a virtue of how you represent these aspects. Obviously, literally all trans women when they first start off are generally masculine, but they still don't interpret themselves to be.
So then you said she would be a woman in that, right?
Yep.
Okay, so then I go back to what I said. Your definition is anyone who calls themselves a woman that's mature is a woman.
I think it's just good if I just make some distinction. You're you're just confused on gender identity and some self-identity.
It's very clear that that's what you're saying. We went through your exception. Let me finish real quick. Let me finish real quick. We went through your exception. Why that wouldn't be the case? You're like, because it has to do with masculinity, and you would click this masculine button and this feminine. And I said, what does masculinity and femininity have anything to do with it? Couldn't you be a woman who's biological female who says that you're masculine and has all these masculine traits, but still identifies as a female and as a woman? Wouldn't that still be a woman? And you're like, yes. So that gets, you have yet to give an example of why this wouldn't include any mature person that calls themselves a woman is a woman. Give me any example when that wouldn't be the case.
Wait, just to be clear, you are confused on semantics, and that's fine. I don't think most people are educated in the given field. So to be clear, we have a gender identity, and then we have a self-identification about your gender. And my view just supervenes or just leans to some gender identity. And we already established that's going to be some set of preferences. And if it's a set of preferences, it's just stands independently true. I take it when you're referring to a self-ID, that's true in virtue of your stances. So clearly that's going to be the symmetry breaker.
I don't understand. You're using $5 words that I don't think you understand.
And I'm using words.
Don't understand. Let me explain. So let me try if I can sift through this. You're saying that there is a self-identifier and then there is a gender identifier. That's what you're saying?
Gender. I just said there's a gender identity and then there's a self-identification about your gender.
So this masculine woman, self-identification, you acknowledge she would be a woman.
Yeah.
Gender identification, would she be a woman?
Yeah, I already answered this like 3 times.
I would. Okay, so in both. So again, what I'm doing is saying the definition of woman is anyone that says that's mature, according to your definition, that says they're a woman. You're like, no, that's not the case. I'm like, why?
It's not true because she's uttering
you introduce this thing about masculine, feminine. I go through how that would still meet my criticism. Then you're like, no, it's different because there's self-identification and there's gender identification. And yet, in this example, in both of those examples, it would be woman. Give me an example of any adult, mature person that says I'm a woman that isn't a woman, that sincerely believes they're a woman that's not.
It's okay. I know you're just a little confused.
I'm not.
So to be clear,
I'm not confused.
It's not
true.
You're
trying to use semantics.
Just for the sake of consistency, yeah.
It's not true.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Just one moment.
like first of all, we should probably like take a second, because we
Who are
want to
you?
pass the mic along. But also, he asked you a very direct question.
Yeah,
Either ask,
yeah, yeah. That's
answer
what I'm
it, or
saying. So it's not true in virtue that she's uttering the sentence, I'm a woman. I've already clarified this. It's true because her internal preferences just lean towards the female category. And that's just stands independently true.
Anyone who believes they're a woman is a woman.
I don't know what you're getting caught up on. It's really simple to
I mean,
understand.
you would say yes. Then that would clear it up. Instead of saying, well, why can't you understand? You're getting confused. Just say yes.
I've
Anyone who
already
believes they're a
clarified
woman's
the
a woman.
view.
Why can't you
Maybe
just say
this
yes or
might
no?
be
It's a
the
direct
fourth
question.
time clarifying the view.
You're not. Can I
If you
ask someone?
can't-
Can I ask real quick? Anyone that's in this room, is anyone confused on this point, or am I the only one?
I think that he's just not answering you directly, so I think we're gonna move along.
He's just like a young kid. He doesn't know any better.
Yeah, we're gonna move next into the queue.
Can we give him real quick? Can we give him one more chance? Can we give him one more chance to answer? Now that you see that it's not just me.
If you want a redemption, yeah, sure. And after that, we're gonna move on to Trav after a little redemption, if that's cool with you. Sure.
So real quick, I just want to. Maybe it's true that you have a substantially higher IQ than everyone else in this room, but I'm telling you that we're not understanding your answer. So I'm just asking you point blank: are you saying that anyone who believes they are a woman is a woman who's mature?
By the way, when you pack up the to agree with you, it doesn't make you look any better.
I'm done with this guy.
But
He's
anyways,
unwilling. Fuck him.
so,
I'm done.
All right, moving on. Trav, you're next in the queue. Trav, if you would like to step up, please.
I tried to engage
against Tubby Rob, another easy win under the belt. That was a big dunk.
Okay, it's just gonna be a couple quick sentences. It's just one question though. Just for quick explanation. So we've seen an increase in measles outbreak up to 672 cases in states like Ohio and Texas, while RFK Jr. is firing people who isn't aligned with his anti-vax policies, like the CDC director, Susan Marinis. And it said hiring anti-vaccine advocates into positions like in Health and Human Services Department. We've also had 9 former CDC chiefs sound the alarm at RFK Jr. after he's weakened several health programs, including programs for cancer, heart attack, and even autism that he himself promised he dedicated to finding a solution. Can we acknowledge that RFK and Trump's administration is to blame for a future health crisis in America?
No, right? We can't, because we have no idea what the effect of this will be at a mass level, right? One, what are the details on the increased measles outbreak? Who's getting them? What are the age of the people?
I can pull up data.
Sure.
Go and do that. I'm just curious why you don't see that as a parent like that. We have a spike in the outbreak since Trump's administration of rolling back all these anti-vax policies. I'm just curious.
Now, I just want to be completely transparent with you. I've heard sort of these claims, but I haven't investigated a lot. A cursory look of just sort of doing search, right, shows me, like, for example, in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio, beginning in late March 2025, there were 16 cases of measles. Is that sort of what you're talking about?
Let me see.
And there could be more. That's just the first one that I'm seeing. Right?
But the vaccine itself can cause outbreaks of measles.
But wait.
Read the insert.
Wait. Let me address this. So I'm just asking. That's sort of what you're suggesting, right? I won't bury the lead. It looks at the information I'm reading was these were all adults that were unvaccinated. So how can we blame the Trump administration for these adults not being vaccinated?
What do you mean?
I mean,
like his administration
Trump's only
promoting
been there
that
for less than a year. So are you saying that some of these people were clairvoyant enough to not get their entire adult life to not get a measles vaccine because they knew Trump would be coming into office?
Wait, what? No. I'm hold.
I'm saying that these are adults that clearly would have had the chance to get a measles vaccine previous to these 8 months that Trump's been in office. So how can you blame Trump because these people are like 30 or 40 years old, and for 30 or 40 years they never got a measles vaccine, and now you're like, it's Trump's fault?
Okay, so let me go and post. Let's see if this is the right link for health services. Sorry, I'm just putting sources, but if someone wants to jump in, that's totally fine. Or
okay, I'll just answer in general, right? Like, ultimately, if there are future outbreaks because Trump's administration decided to roll back certain things that ended up being effective when it came to fighting disease or something, then maybe in the future we would be able to draw a causal line to that. I don't know. But the idea that if there is an outbreak in the future, that definitely means it's Trump is nonsensical, particularly when we see people are already blaming Trump's, like you alluded to, for cases of adults right now that are unvaccinated. Like when we could clearly point to how many previous administrations that these adults have lived through and chose not to get a measles vaccine. I also strongly suspect, and this is anecdotal, I'll bet that a lot of these people are not native born. I'll bet a lot of them are coming from foreign countries.
But you're saying you're okay with all these firings, using all these rollbacks, all of these like swapping positions with someone to CDC director because she's not aligned with his anti-vax ideology.
Yes.
And putting someone who is that is okay. Why?
Two
Why is
reasons.
that? How is that? Doesn't that put us America at risk for a health crisis?
You know what put America at risk?
No, but answer that. Why is that okay though?
It's okay because the idea that these people are infallible and that the executive branch that's led by Donald Trump shouldn't be allowed to put people underneath him in these positions that he will be in charge of, that I go with his goals that he's trying to achieve, is nonsensical. He should have that right.
But he's not a doctor, though. He's not a scientist. Why not listen to the scientists, though?
What put people at risk?
Why wouldn't he listen to scientists?
Okay, if you want to do it this way, you want to interrupt. Did you support lockdowns during the pandemic?
Yes.
Why? Did you listen to the scientists?
Yeah.
How'd that work?
It was effective.
It was not effective. Prove it.
This is just like not answer. We don't know. Wait.
I'm asking you to prove your claim. Would you admit this?
Was it the first 2 weeks or the 2 weeks after that was effective?
Would you at least admit this? We have a right, under our government that you would agree with to freely assemble. First Amendment, correct? You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you would say that I think we're probably both on the same page here. Both of us would say that in extreme circumstance, possibly the government could limit that, right?
Possible.
Okay, so if you're going to limit that, shouldn't the impetus be on you to prove your case?
How long then till it's proven though?
Okay,
how long?
so then
we have to wait that. Wait, but how long? No, I just wanted to say how long would it have to be though?
You would have to prove the case that it would be necessary based on the preponderance of evidence at the time that you suggested these lockdowns.
So how? What would be the time frame be?
Let me finish my line of questioning. So presumably, when lockdowns were occurring, you were in favor of them, correct?
Yeah.
What was the evidence you were looking at to suggest that let you draw that conclusion?
I would say the slowdown of transmitted the number of the virus. I would say.
How?
Why?
You were for the lockdowns as they were occurring, so there wasn't data that you could point to that says, "Oh, see, it's slowing things down." So when you first cheered on the lockdowns, what was the data you were looking at? What was the evidence?
I could check right now. But
No, wait a minute. That's fine. I don't mind you checking. But I'm not asking you for a post hoc justification. I'm saying you woke up
at the time there was a site that I used that showed the tracking of all the COVID virus in the states and the countries. There's a map of it. I remember I used it for a while. It was showing the numbers, and for a while the number did stagnate. It was not stagnant, but it was slowing down at a slower pace than it was initially where it was escalated.
Okay, so
I have to go back and find that website and find the other ones. At the time, there was research that I did do at the time to find that information.
Okay,
so
just
there was information.
So just to be clear, when the initial lockdowns happened, you didn't support it, or you didn't have a take on it because you had no evidence that you were able to look at to see if it would be effective or not.
Yes, because I trust the doctors and the scientists who are put in those positions. Wouldn't you? Do you not?
Right. And this gets to the
wait. Do you not? Do you trust them or no?
Allow me to finish.
Just yes or no. Just yes or no. And you can go and Dolph. Just yes or no,
I don't
please.
inherently trust anyone by saying that you have to take our word and we won't show you proof as to why. There is no human being in the world, not even.
So why should I trust RFK then?
Please stop interrupting. There is no human being in the world, including my loved ones, including my family, that I trust implicitly. It would be close with my wife. It would be close with people like that. But there is no one that I would trust implicitly, particularly just because there's some sort of appeal to authority. The problem is people like you that trusted these doctors implicitly, which led us to some of the terrible decisions we saw. For example, the doctors told us that we needed to lock down schools, right? How did that decision work out?
You're probably gonna say shut down some schools because no one was attending or some bullshit like that.
No, I'm telling you, the doctors recommended shutting down schools. That was what the science told us. That's what Fauci and company said.
Yeah, because it transmits. No, you don't even if you're not sick, like you can passively what's it called? There's a term for it.
It did not.
What? You don't believe that? You could have
No, the
Okay.
lockdowns of schools were a disaster. In fact, it turned out that most data was showing that kids were less likely to get COVID at schools than they were at home for various reasons. Kids were at almost no risk of the virus. And the predictable results of shutting down schools were that the kids were going to suffer not only in the short term for things like lack of nutrition, lack of health care in other ways, but also in the long term from losing that positions that they had scholastically. And we're seeing the negative effects of that, and we're going to continue to see them for a generation. We fucked up a generation of kids based on a disease that they were at almost no impact to have serious consequences. And yet the science told us without showing us any of the data. Instead, do you know what they told us? Instead of making their case, which I was willing to listen, this is what they said. Shut up. Do you want grandma to die? In my state of Pennsylvania, Admiral Levine, before she was admiral, she was under Tom Wolf. She was his health secretary. Right. And I'm using.
So was it wrong for?
Let me finish my point real quick.
Okay.
Right? Levine told us that we had to be if we were non-essential, we couldn't go to work, and that certain counties had to be red, which meant that you almost shouldn't leave your house, et cetera, et cetera. Simultaneously, Levine said that nursing homes had to accept COVID patients, people that were diagnosed with COVID. Want to know what the predictable results of trusting the science was there? Thousands of elderly people, the people most at risk for COVID, now were put in facilities and closed doors with people that were positive for COVID, and they died. Now,
like
I said that was terrible. You said trust the science, though, right?
Yeah, well, Trump did too, right? The lockdown started under his administration, so you would say he fucked up, right?
Correct. I absolutely heavily criticized Trump at the time. That's the difference between someone like me and you. I don't implicitly trust someone because of their station like you. I look at evidence to the best of my ability. You don't. You say that we should just pick someone and trust them implicitly.
Yes, we would trust the science. We would trust people who've had years of experience and not RFK who has zero experience, right?
Okay, so
would you trust more? Like you would scale it like
I
you
trust an
trust more,
honest
right?
man more than anybody, not dishonest.
50-something in Nature magazine, 50-something scientists said the gain of function had nothing to do. It couldn't have came from a Wuhan lab. Were they right or wrong?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
50-something scientists in Nature magazine said that it was impossible that gain of function had something to do with this virus, and it couldn't have came from a lab in Wuhan. Were they right or wrong?
I don't know. I haven't delved into much of
Right,
sources
but
of that.
weren't we supposed to just trust the science? By trusting the science, what that led to was we literally censored people on social media that said, it looks like this virus probably came from Wuhan. But that's what the science told us. Then we had thousands of scientists and medical professionals that said, the virus is really bad and we still support lockdowns. But you know what's worse? Racism. So go ahead and go march for Black Lives Matter. But we're not supposed to question that, right? Just trust the science, correct?
Yeah, he's got a point there. Honestly, Rob takes the W on that. That's a dub for Rob. So I want to move on to Lost, to Avarice, if they're free to hop up.
Hey, Rob.
What's up, Avarice? Long time no see.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, so before we start, can we just nail some things out of the way for just so we don't like talk over each other and we're not like in bad faith with each other? Can we at least agree that the moral framework we'll be using is pretty much going to be aimed at a Christian framework?
For the sake of our discussion, sure, no problem.
Sure, awesome. And also we're gonna just say that not just like Dems are getting what they deserve, because we're just kind of talking about politics, but we're gonna be kind of arguing on what would have been better or why this is that way. And so I have two pillars I want to hit that I want to go through, and then I'll get mine out of the way and I want to hear what you have to say. I say deportation and mass deportation were bad. On the economy, one, it's actually destroying.
Hey, TOS.
You're a liberal and you should.
Can someone ban that person like immediately?
It's actually costing us much more for deportation. Just in studies alone and how much it would cost it all, it's like $315 billion on a government study stating, that's how much it's going to cost for all the buses, rounding them all up. Not to mention, if you look at it from the other way, if they were just in here, we just let them all in, right? Most illegal immigrants, as you would say, allow or start businesses, whether it be a taco truck, or they're most likely to feed into our economy. So creating more money. So better economy. And then on the other pillar, more Christian pillar, like why are we sending all these children and people back to worse places. Should we not want them to be a part of a better nation, a better place in general, Rob?
So let's deal with the second portion of that first. From a Christian perspective, right? Would you acknowledge that although we're supposed to have love for all humanity, that God does not presuppose that we should love our family and take care of our family? Forget love, take care of our family before we worry about taking care of other people? So you're a family man, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think he does say that we should take care of our family and we should do those things, but we also should be taking care of our neighbor and those around us as well.
But should we take care of our neighbor to the detriment of our family?
Well, what's detriment? Like, what do you mean by detriment? What's going on here?
If there are predictable negative consequences that would occur to my family because I'm spending so much of my wealth on my neighbor's family.
Okay, but what predictable consequences are we getting at here, Rob?
That's fair. But then what I'm saying is then when we're discussing the morality, if I could prove that it would be better for this country to not have this mass amount of illegals here, then that would presuppose the moral argument because you would acknowledge that morally God would be okay with me taking care of my family and by extension, me taking care of my countrymen before taking care of the people around the world.
Well, yeah, I can say that you could bring us some stat that's going to prove that some like people from out of an area or whatever would do bad. But I could also say the other that we could employ these people to be in positions, or some of the people that are not the bad people that come in more positions of like empowerment or adjustment or enforcement, and increase those enforcement arms so that like people would be less inclined to do those things. Could you say? But we don't do that at all. We don't even offer that.
But that's getting to issue one, which I'm happy to deal with. What I'm doing is if I deal with issue one and say, actually, we would be better off to deport all of these people in this country for the domestic citizens of this country, you'll revert to argument two and say, yes, but as Christians morally, shouldn't we help everyone around the world? And what I've got you to do is concede that no, if I could prove that it would be worse for our countrymen to allow these illegals here,
get him out of here.
He's already muted.
So just
goodbye. Thanks for visiting. You are now removed from the chat. Please proceed. Please proceed if you would.
Yeah, but just is there any vetting?
I don't see how you got me circular here. You're sitting here saying, "Oh, it's like you can show me that it's bad." I can say that you show me that's bad, but I can show you that the economy is good.
Hold on, let's not overtalk.
Yeah, let's please let the participants go back to it. Yes, please.
But listen, I have a question that's more important than this debate. And that question is, I can't keep streaming if there's going to be no vetting process of the people that are coming in, because it's clear whoever these trolls are going to do this the rest of the show, and it's going to cause me and everyone else who's streaming to lose our channel. So is there going to be some sort of vetting process from this point forward, or there's no sense of me even proceeding, because I can't risk losing my channel because at this point there's some troll that knows that they're just going to keep coming in under a different account shouting homophobic and racial slurs.
Yeah,
and that is a viable question. No, that's
A16, can you?
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
A16, could you please lower the room number so that those kind of people can't come in?
Chris had a good idea. It might be better for you guys to server mute everybody and then only unserver mute the person talking.
Yeah, that's
so that way nobody can talk.
Yeah,
that's
they'll still be able to talk if they join, but
yeah. So what I think is best is just to lower the room number, because the ones that are coming in, they're just trolls from the top chat. So if we could just lower the room number to the people who are in, and if they want to join, they can be dragged in from the side chat, and we'll just drag them if they want to debate.
And anytime someone news,
Rob, you have an inside out goal. Can you actually confirm that?
No.
I didn't hear.
Let's also make sure that people under the rank of Centurion don't get voice, because mostly the people that have come in have been journeymen or lower.
The last thing I'll say is if someone new
Rob, I'm hearing reports.
See, all right, I'm gonna have to leave. Unfortunately, I just can't deal with this. I'm gonna risk losing my channel. I can't do that.
Yeah, run away.
I absolutely can't do that. So,
well, Rob, your mods can do more. Like if they lock the room.
But I mean, there's nothing I can do at this point. If the moderation, if it's too difficult, there's nothing I could do. I'm more than happy to sit here and smoke people all night, but it's just not something that's going to be possible. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, it sounds like you're running, buddy. It sounds like you're running.
Just run away. Just run away.
No. Yeah. I think that there's so many people in that room that have that mindset. Sort of goes to show that it's not going to be possible for me to stay in that room. It's just, it's not possible. So I can't do it. It's not worth the risk. What I'm going to have to do, I apologize. We have 350 people watching right now. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to end this stream and restart the stream up again. And I'm going to have to immediately delete this off of all platforms. So I will be restarting the stream in about 5 minutes. I apologize to everyone that wanted to have a discussion in good faith, both on that board and wanted to hear that here. The fact that so many people from that board were like, oh, fuck you, you're running away, that were literally there, sort of proves to me that that wasn't the right move to stay there.